Implementing a rules engine in Python. I'm writing a log collection analysis application in Python, and I need to write a rules engine to match and act on log messages. It needs to feature regular expression matching for the message itself, arithmetic comparisons for message severity/priority, Boolean operators. I envision an example rule would probably be something like I'm thinking about using PyParsing or similar to actually parse the rules and construct the parse tree. The current, not yet implemented, design I have in mind is to have classes for each rule type, and construct and chain them together according to the parse tree. Then each rule would have a matches method that could take a message object return whether or not it matches the rule. Very quickly, something like these rule classes would then be chained together according to the parse tree of the message, and the match method called on the top rule, which would cascade down until all the rules were evaluated. I'm just wondering if this is a reasonable approach, or if my design and ideas are way totally out of whack. Unfortunately, I never had the chance to take a compiler design course, or anything like that in university, so I'm pretty much coming up with this stuff of my own accord. Could someone with some experience in these kinds of things please chime in and evaluate the idea? Edit. Some good answers so far. Here's a bit of clarification. The aim of the program is to collect log messages from servers on the network and store them in the database. Apart from the collection of log messages, the collector will define a set of rules that will either match or ignore messages depending on the conditions and flag an alert if necessary. I can't see the rules being of more than a moderate complexity, and they will be applied in a chain list until either a matching alert or ignore rule is hit. However, this part isn't quite as relevant to the question. As for the syntax being close to Python syntax, yes, that is true. However, I think it would be difficult to filter the Python down to the point where the user couldn't inadvertently do some crazy stuff with the rules that was not intended.
Do not invent yet another rules language. Either use Python or use some other existing, already debugged and working language like Bool. Just write your rules in Python, import them and execute them. Life is simpler, far easier to debug, and you've actually solved the actual log reading problem without creating another problem. Imagine this scenario. Your program breaks. It's now either the rule parsing, the rule execution, or the rule itself. You must debug all three. If you wrote the rule in Python, it would be the rule, and that would be that. I think it would be difficult to filter the Python down to the point where the user couldn't inadvertently do some crazy stuff with the rules that was not intended. This is largely the I want to write a compiler argument. 1. You're the primary user. You'll write, debug and maintain the rules. Are there really armies of crazy programmers who will be doing crazy things? Really? If there is any potential crazy user, talk to them. Teach them. Don't fight against them by inventing a new language, which you will then have to maintain and debug forever. 2. It's just log processing. There's no real cost to the craziness. No one is going to subvert the world economic system with faulty log handling. Don't make a small task with a few dozen lines of Python onto a 1000-line interpreter to interpret a few dozen lines of some rule language. Just write the few dozen lines of Python. Just write it in Python as quickly and clearly as you can and move on to the next project.
You might also want to look at PyK.
You might also like to take a look at PyDiamond Rules. It builds rules engines from decision model notation, DMN, rule tables.
It's a little hard to answer the question without knowing what the scope of the application is.
What are you trying to reason about? What level analysis are you talking about? How complicated do you see the rules becoming?
How complicated is the interplay between different rules?
On one end of the spectrum is a simple one-off approach like you have proposed.
This is fine if the rules are few, relatively simple, and you're not doing anything more complicated than aggregating log messages that match the specified rules. On the other side of the spectrum is a heavyweight reasoning system, something like Clips that has a Python interface. This is a real rules engine with inferencing and offers the ability to do sophisticated reasoning.
If you're building something like a diagnostic engine that operates off of a program log, this could be more appropriate. Edit.
I would say that the current implementation idea is fine for what you're doing. Anything much more and I think you probably run the risk of over-engineering the solution. It seems to capture what you want, matching on the log messages just based on a few different criteria.
If you want to see more, please consider subscribing.